I had wanted to say that this is one of the discussions that people ask the most in the Facebook groups.
Okay.
What are your thoughts about hydroxyurea? And, as a parent, as a caregiver, hydroxyurea has had some of the longest research when it comes to sickle cell treatment. And so I think that's something we have to look at the science. So in 1998, it was approved for sickle cell use. And so, Dr. Raleigh mentioned penicillin. That's another question that people have, but we have to trust the science and continue to learn more. Like Dr. Raleigh said, it will work for some, it may not work for others because no
Yes.
one thing works for everybody because sickle cell is different for every single person that has it. And so this has been an incredible discussion, and I know that they're going to bring up the super siblings. This is one of the panels that I have really been looking forward to because we don't always hear from siblings who are supporting their warriors. You hear from caregivers like me who are parents, but not always from the siblings. So we can't wait to hear from you all. This is an exciting day that we have a super siblings panel.
Definitely. Thank you. Uh, Thanks for being with us. And so why don't we start off with if everybody can put their camera on, and then if you all can introduce yourself. We're hello. Okay, I see. Oh no. Oh, there you are. You're bringing them in. Okay. Wonderful. We have a full house here. Wonderful. How about that when I call your name? If you guys can introduce yourself, um, and let us know what position you are in terms of the sibling, just so that we'll get to know you and then we can hear your story. Um, Brianna?
Morning, everyone. Well, it's morning out here in California, so I'll just say hi. Hello. My name is Brianna Dixon. I am 38 years old. I have a son who's 4 years old, so that's been a journey. With as far as my sibling goes, my brother has sickle cell anemia. He is the youngest of my mom's children. We are 13 years apart. So that was my first baby. Um, and so I definitely have had this journey. He will be 25 this year. So it's been definitely a journey as far as learning about the disease and learning what he needs and how to advocate for him even at a young age. So I'm just excited to be here in this panel. When my mom said, "Hey, they're doing a super sibling," I was like, "Yay, this is cool." So thank you so much for that. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Daniela?
Hello, everyone. My name is Daniela Alwatch. I am from Kenya, but I currently live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm the oldest daughter in an African home. So, yeah, my sister has sickle cell. She's the second born, and then I have two younger brothers. So, yeah, I do
Thank
have the trait, and then my sister, then my brothers don't have it. So,
thank you. Dr. Edward?
Hello, good afternoon, or I'm not sure where everyone is time-wise, but my name is Ed Bochwe. I am a professor of biomedical engineering at the Wallace Coulter Department at Georgia Tech and Emory, so I'm also in Atlanta. Um, my sister had sickle cell. She passed away in 2021, but it was really through my experience in getting to know her. We didn't grow up in the same household. I'm, part Ghanaian, part South Carolinian, kind of went back and forth. And it was really through her experience with sickle cell disease that I first learned about it, and its manifestations. And through that relationship, that really drew me into sickle cell research proper. And so today we have research programs where we look at some of the cardiovascular manifestations and some of the manifestations in terms of bone quality that are associated with sickle cell disease, largely inspired by my experience as a sibling. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay. And so AI did something to you. There you are. All right. And dear Casey, if you could introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Casey Gibson. Um, I am 28 years old, born and raised in California. I work with my mom, Adrienne Shapiro, with Access Advocates. And my older sister has sickle cell disease. I have trait. Um, my experience, I guess, is unique in that my sister was 20 when I was born. So she was already an adult when I was just starting out. Guys, thank you for having me on the panel.
I'm so glad you're here. So, Biba and Elle, uh, feel free to let's get this conversation going because we really haven't had anything like this, and we really want to hear from you. And I think the first question is, what was it like, or what is it like? And anyone can start first.
I'll go ahead and start. It's my experience. It's a lot of learning and growing in different aspects of life. Um, Learning how to be patient, learning how to advocate, learning empathy, learning how to um, developing courage and things of that nature that you don't really necessarily think that the person that does not have the disease would have to develop in order to be in that person's life, but you do. Even at a young age, I had to learn how to stand up for my brother in conversations that he wasn't even around for. Things of that nature, you don't really necessarily think of those things unless you're in it. Definitely learning how to be strong when you don't really know where to pull the strength from, learning how to just be encouraging, even when you're sad about the situation. I feel like those skills definitely can um, play out in every aspect of life. And I guess for us with my brother, he has type SS, and so it was definitely more challenging than others' experiences may have been. But to see him grow into the man that he's become, where he is kind and generous and loving and caring, in knowing a situation that could have made him angry and bitter about life, it's a lesson that I take from him to look at the brighter side of things and try to, be positive when you can. And so learning the medical side, learning it's a honestly, for me, it was just a lot of learning and development, especially since my brother was born, I was 13. And I feel like that point of my life is where I get a lot of the foundation of who I am today. And a lot of it came from helping to take care of him. My parents are amazing. I literally inserted myself as a third wheel to help with him. But I'm glad I did it. It was an amazing thing, and it even helps me be a better mom now to my own son. So that was, for me, that was my takeaway, my experience. It definitely is hard with the hospital stays and not being able to just make the pain go away, not being able to just stop it when you want to be able to stop it. It's hard, and it is heartbreaking at times, but my brother, as we all say, they're warriors, and he's absolutely a warrior, and I take strength and courage from him.
Thank you. And that's from a perspective of being the oldest. And I'm curious, Casey, being the youngest, um, what was it like?
So listening to Brianna talk was interesting because um I feel like I also learned things from my sister having sickle cell, but almost in the reverse. My some of my formative memories are of like going to hospitals and things like that. She told me this as an adult, that she made a conscious effort to sort of shield me from the difficulties of being in the hospital, talking to doctors and stuff. Even with that, at 6, she said, I don't remember this, but she remembers this very clearly. I think I was 5 or 6. A nurse was telling her how much Benadryl she was going to get, and I said, no, it's supposed to be this many milligrams.
Ooh.
And I think it taught me to be assertive in certain things, but also taught me sort of empathy and patience because I started out having a sibling that was sick. I learned very early that sacrifices had to be made, and that's okay. Sometimes things are more important, I guess. So, no, we can't do something because your sister's sick, or she would want to do something with me, or we would want to do something together and we couldn't. Um, but I sort of had to learn very early that's okay. Um, it's more important that she's well. It's more health is more important than whatever fun thing you want to do. It probably helped that I was such an introvert and didn't really like going out and hanging out with people too much. Um, but yeah, that taught me sort of patience and being gentle and empathy. I think a lot earlier than a lot of kids learn it, and I am grateful for that.
Mm.
Thank you.
I'm wondering, so any how do I say, any guilt or negative emotion like resentment sometimes, because you did mention that, not being able to do something because you have a, when you are a child, it's hard. But you don't know, right? So you just, anyone felt something like that? And I will tell you why, because I'm a mom myself, and I have an adult with sickle cell, and I kept asking the siblings from time to time, how do you guys feel about it? And then I remember one day my daughter said, Mom, I don't know any other life. I was born, he was here, and he has sickle cell. So what do you want me to compare to? So I realized that that was our reality. And because he's the oldest with sickle cell, they don't know anything about hospital, but we cancel plans or stuff. So I want to know anytime that there was any type of, I don't know if resentment is the right word, but, saying what life could have been without.
Right. I want to just kind of reword it because what I was thinking, have you ever felt left out or overlooked because of it? And I'm also a caregiver mom.
Yeah, I can speak on that a little bit because so my sister and I were pretty close because we are only 4 years apart. And growing up, she was diagnosed when she was only 3 months. So her young life, she spent a lot of times in the hospital. And I just learned to, you know, have to understand my mom being away and having to be with my sister at the hospital. And I think now when I've become older, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I've never even shared this. I was just processing my emotions. And I wouldn't say resentment, but I think I felt neglected at some point because the number of times she had to be there for my sister. And it's not that I have anything against her, but she has to be there for my sister, because she can't be at the hospital by herself. And then also, so I'll say being a sibling to someone with sickle cell, it's layered. It's a lot of love, a lot of fear, because back then doctors weren't not sure she'll live to see her celebrate her 18th birthday. And then you have to be very understanding when you can't do some stuff as a family because your sister is not able to even get out of bed. And also, it's just having to be the protective, especially when you go to school with her and people try to pick on her because, you know, she's not as strong. So I learned to just, yeah, have
Oh,
so much empathy for my sister and understand that she didn't, it was not personal. It's just my mom had to be there for her. So yeah, that's what I'll say.
I hear you, and I love what you said. You know, and it's true. It's the reality, and that's exactly what I wanted us to talk about, to touch on that. The parents have to be parent for both of you, but this one has special needs that makes it that you will be sometimes, you know, left behind or left out, and it's not because they don't love you or they love you less. It's because this one has particular needs that has to be taken care of. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you all, really.
So
Um,
I wanted to pick up on that actually.
Yes.
okay.
So my situation was a little unique in that, my father had 5 children, but the family was distributed among different mothers, and so I met my sister who had sickle when she was a toddler and I was a preteen,
Mm,
and um, you can imagine a scenario where you're trying to get to know your father and kind of guarding jealously the relationship you're trying to cultivate with him while his attention was rightfully at that time very focused on providing the best possible care for my sister, who I was
yeah.
also getting to know. And there were dimensions of the relationship that I didn't understand at the time. Because with my sister, she had both kind of a cognitive and behavioral manifestation of sickle cell disease that was challenging for my dad, for the family. And I never quite understood the way in which, uh, he had to engage with her, especially, as she got somewhat older, and the way he dealt with the rest of us. And there were sibling jealousies and rivalries there, especially when I was a teenager. The idea of learning empathy and patience really resonates because I think that the in some ways the 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 I was able to um, become almost a bridge among these my other siblings, because I was able to kind of forge a very what became a very dear and loving relationship, with my sister. It was probably one of the most formative experiences as I had as a kind of as a teenager and a young adult, and really getting to know her and learning how to care for her in the way that my father had modeled. And so, at least in my case, what started out very, as a difficult thing, that I was, kind of challenged by with some negative emotions and jealousies, really
Mm,
did turn into something, very different once I was able to mature past that.
I'm
wow.
glad that you shared that because I feel like, there's a heaviness to everything as a sibling. There's a sense of responsibility that comes into the family dynamic. I always say sickle cell doesn't only affect the warrior, it impacts that entire family. And you're your own person outside of being a sibling. So, how did you balance your own goals and your own responsibilities while still being a part of this empathetic family? And, you develop this sense of compassion, this sense of, I feel like it's a greater sense of love and dedication. But how did you balance your own goals with that?
Wow, that's a great question. For me, the fact that I went into kind of the biomedical health sciences was great because I could actually look at, my sister's care. I think it was already mentioned, from the mechanism of different drugs and alternative therapies and what some of the, kind of the pathobiology was that contributed to symptoms. And I was able to communicate that, at least I thought I was, in lay language to my dad. And I was able to have a level of compassion for my sister because I understood more of what she was going through. The first time I saw an angiogram of the blood vessel network in the brain of someone who has a severe, sickle cell disease and some of the cognitive and behavioral manifestations, I almost cried because it helped me have an appreciation, a compassion for all that she had endured and overcome over the course of a lifetime and the challenges that she was facing. And so, for me, it really did help to, you know, have some level of understanding of what this disease really is, to make that turn.
Anyone
I would
else?
like to just chime in on that. Um, from my perspective, just because I've always been a person that loves to be of service to others, I had to adjust my thinking and understand that it's okay to want to have things for myself. And it's okay to develop my own life. Like I said earlier, I inserted myself as a third wheel to my parents in helping taking care of my brother. And of course I have a sister. We have a sister in the middle of in between us, and she's 10 years younger than me. So there's a pretty big age gap there. So I was already on a different path than what they were on because of the age gap. And then becoming an adult in my early 20s, like Casey, I was kind of introverted. Like I didn't really like going out with people unless I was hanging out with my friends or things like that. So as soon as I turned 18, I made sure my mom signed the documentation at the hospital that allowed me to stay in the hospital with my brother so that they're able to rest and they're able to, um, you know, collect themselves and they're able to go to work and things of that nature because I knew it was a lot on them. So that was a lot of my early 20s, just being there for my family and being there for my brother. Being at one point, I was staying with him on my birthday. And in my family, birthdays are like holidays. Like it's your day, you do what you, but that's what I wanted to do at that time was to be there for him and take care of him. But as I got older, I needed to be able to branch off and find out who I am as an individual and develop me as a person. And it was hard for me because I love my family so much. It was hard for me to just be like, okay, it's okay to go get your feet done. He'll be there. It's fine. It's okay to just rest a little bit. It's okay to um, want things for yourself. And so I learned how to balance that. And even now, like I said, being a mom, I'm learning how to balance it even more because I can't always be there for him if he has a crisis because I have a different level of responsibility now than I did before. And so it's still a learning process at this point. And I think it'll probably be easier once my son gets older. But as of right now, because he's 4, he's with me all the time, unless he's with his father. So I feel like that's something that you just keep developing and keep learning over time. As your life adjusts, you have to adjust with it. Oh, as your life changes, excuse me, you have to adjust with it. And it's just, and my brother encouraged me to do that. He made me know it was okay to want more for myself. And he and I have one-on-one conversations that we don't even tell our parents about because it's our relationship. It's our, it's me and him. And so he was like, it's okay. I get it. You know, I love, he was like, I appreciate and I'm grateful for you. And I appreciate everything that you've always done for me. And I know you love me, but go do something. Okay. It is absolutely okay to have your life because there's a guilt there that I feel like you don't really understand if you're not a caregiver. There's a level of guilt of, oh my God, I've always been there. Now I'm leaving them. What if something happens the one time I'm just gone? And you know, the world won't stop spinning. They will be okay. You will be okay, and you'll be able to do better for them once you do better for yourself. And that's something that you kind of had to learn and develop. Well, me, I don't know about everybody. I'll speak for myself. That's something I had to learn and develop over time.
Wow.
I
Do you
can.
notice how they've all been affected in a certain way and they become these individuals who right away are caring, like with a lot of empathy, like well, it's just amazing. And I'm listening to all of you and I see my own kids, like I sometimes I'm like, so they were given this responsibility without even realizing what it is, but they took it and they made it like it's nothing. But it is huge what you're doing. Really, it's good. Oh my God, touches me a lot because this is the one thing as a parent that you struggle with because you want your child to be a child to enjoy life, to not have any stress, but it's also stressful. You know, do we talk about um, the stress that the crisis because you know how sickle cell is, right? How it can shorten someone's life. So growing up with that type of stress, has that affects your mental health in any way? And have you been to therapy because of that or not? Did you really ask for professional help or never?
Uh,
Yes,
Go
yes.
ahead, Casey.
I okay. Um, that's actually sort of something I wanted to touch on. When we were talking about responsibility,
Mhm.
um, so I'm 28. I've known my sister my whole life. I've also lived with her my whole life, except when I was living on campus going to school. Um, I still live at home because rent crises in LA are crazy. Um, but something I only realized very recently, like last year, is that part of this sort of responsibility I've felt, and it's not, no one told me that I had to do things like make food for my family and, do dishes and stuff like that. I'm not as good at household chores, but I have taken over most of the cooking at home. Um, so for my sister, do things like bringing tea and water and food and bringing like her laundry down from upstairs so he doesn't have to carry it, things like that. But I realized very recently, like I said, just last year, that I'd sort of been suppressing a bit of my emotions about it, not reflecting on them,
Mm.
because, whatever I'm going through, it's so much worse for her. And my mom's taking on so much more um, responsibility than I am because I'm still sort of considered the baby, even though I am almost 30. Uh, but I realized I had sort of this epiphany while I was helping my sister pack for the ER. Oh, this is traumatic. This is trauma,
Yeah.
but I can't focus on that right now because hers is worse. And I think I hear this talked about a bit more for like parent caregivers than siblings, but there is watching someone you love suffer consistently for years, for decades
Yeah.
is traumatizing. And it's almost like you're not really allowed to say it.
Yes.
You are. You should say it because it's true. And I really need to find a therapist. It's really hard. My last therapist is no longer in network. I'm not going to talk about insurance right now. Um, but I had that epiphany after her, so I didn't even end up talking to her about this. I literally just had the epiphany. It was like 4 a.m. helping my sister pack for the ER. And I was like, oh, this is stressful.
Yes, it is. It is. It's stressful to like wake up to do that in the middle of the night, but it's stressful because you don't know what the outcome is when your sister goes to the ER, and that day maybe you needed some rest to go to like it's stress, it's trauma, and it's important to acknowledge it, and talk about it and seek help, because us talking about it here, it's good, but really if you feel like you need to talk to a specialist, a professional, do it. I'm going to share something with you so that you know that it's trauma. When COVID started, the COVID pandemic, people start sheltering. I was there. I was watching news like everybody, but I didn't really take any type of decision for the family. My kids came to me, and they're all younger than the sibling with sickle cell, and he doesn't live with us anymore, so he lives alone. And they say, "Mom, we have to get him back here, and we have to decide if he has, if one of us have COVID, where it's gonna be, how we're gonna isolate him." They all went into this plan, and they were there online because they're computer generation kids, and I'm not. They were looking at, this is what they say we should do, this is what they said we should do. And then we told him, he said, no, 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 I don't want to come. I don't think it's safe for me to come with all of you. I will stay in my house, and then we will figure out. And then he had to go to work because his physician will not give him any type of paper for him to stay home, and he works in healthcare. So what his brother, who was out of school because he was in college, did, he said, he went to his brother, he said, tell your boss to hire me. I will lift boxes, I will do anything in the pharmacy, but tell your boss to hire me so that I can drive you to work and bring you back so that you don't take the bus. For 60 days, he went to pick up his brother and bring him back until the doctor was able to tell him to stop working. And I was sitting there and looking at that boy putting his own life in danger, because if the brother got it, he will get it too. But he didn't want his brother to take the bus, the public transport. And I asked him later on, you know what he told me? He said, Mom, I was scared to death, but I didn't want to show him. He said, Mom, when he gets into the car, I will remove my mask and he will tell me, put it back on. He said, Mom, the minute I drop him, I will use the Purell. I will clean the whole car. But I wanted to do it for him, but I was scared. But you see the stress that he went through for 60 days, putting yourself. So that's what you're doing there. So it stays and you build up. And then he goes to work and something happened, and then he gets overwhelmed, and then he snaps there, but not at his brother, never. But others will get this, overflow of emotion. So work through it and seek help, okay? Really, and I love what you guys are doing, but know that you are human too, and you have needs, and you deserve the care and the love, because you were put in a situation that your sibling didn't choose, but you didn't choose either, right? It's just genetics, it's just life.
Thank you. We have about 10 minutes, and Daniela, Dr. Wood, and Brianna, did you guys want to comment on that?
Well, yeah, I can comment on that. Listening to both Brianna and Casey share, I realized for me, I'll go back to the goals part and then talk about the mental health part of it. So when it comes to the goals part, as a firstborn in an African home, there's this silent pressure and expectation to perform and be the best. And considering I'm the healthy one, I always have to be the best at what I do. So Yeah, it was a lot of responsibility considering I also had to take care of my other younger siblings since my mom had to be in and out of hospital. And this pushed me to now work towards becoming a nurse. So I became a nurse. I did my undergraduate in nursing, but during training, I had an experience with my first, like one of the patients I had to attend to had a nervous system condition, and seeing them on that bed going through the pain that I've seen my sister go through, it broke me in ways I never wanted to work in the hospital as a bedside nurse ever. So I straight went into nonprofit to just make a difference in people's life and be of service to others. As Brianna said, that is just what I felt that I was called to do. And I am an empath, so I feel people's emotions and I carry people's pain and burden. So when my sister was having a crisis and we gave her medication, but still, the pain, there's no way you can just elevate the pain. So sometimes I wished I was the one going through that pain so that she can just be able to get some rest and sleep. So looking back, that was a traumatic experience, and I've never shared it with anyone because I honestly don't think we've ever had this discussion, like, or even with my friends. They probably don't know that my sister has sickle cell or have the trait because it's not common for us to share, especially Africans, that, oh, I have this condition. Yeah. So the hardest part for me was also deciding to move to the US because I had to further my education and support my mom and having to leave my mom and my siblings, especially my sister. That was the hardest. I felt like I'm abandoning her. And she was just done with her high school. She was going to college, and now I was also moving here. So there is a lot of emotions I still need to process because I subconsciously just placed them at the back of my mind and didn't deal with that. But now, as we're discussing and hearing Brianna share her experience, Dr. Edward share his experience, and Casey share experience, I'm like, yeah, I need to see a therapist and just process some of these layered emotions that I have neglected over the years. But I'll still choose any other day to be a sister to my sister because I love her. I love her to death. I will give any of my organs if she ever needs it. So yeah.
Thank you.
Everything that everybody said was so other centered. I'm wondering, how do you feel, like, who do you go to for your own support? And I know that, that's just something I'm curious about. I am, like I said, a caregiver. My children are twins, so they are the exact same age, and one has sickle cell and one doesn't. So in our home, it's a even different dynamic than what you all are speaking of. But I'm curious because I want to, as a parent, I want to learn how I can better support. So who and how do you find support for yourself? Who do you go to for it, and how do you find support for yourself?
I'll say God. I go to God. And also, because I'm an extrovert, I do go outside, watch sports, get involved with people, like just social gatherings. Being around people and gives me the energy to continue going and not showing my family that I need them to be there for me. So I get my strength outside, then come back home and be there for them.
Yes, you are definitely an extrovert. That's where you pull your strength. Um, Dr. Edward?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a difficult question for me, I have to admit. I just remember, and it's somewhat unique to the circumstances that I was in. But, as I mentioned, um, my sister, my sister's mother and my father, um, you know, in different seasons of my experience with, my sister and her crises and dealing with sickle cell, I have to confess, I mean, the, her, the stress that was putting on their relationship, was very evident. Um, in the seasons of her crisis when she was in the hospital, when things were particularly tense, um, it was really hard to navigate emotionally. It was very hard, really, to talk honestly to either of them or my sister, really, about those more, tense emotions, because for the most part, we were just trying to focus on getting my sister the care that she needed, getting through this particular episode and on the other side of it. And I don't know that I took any time to really think about how I felt or who I could talk to about it. Um, and it was really only after my sister passed that a lot of unprocessed emotions came spilling out that I wish we had taken the time to try to deal with when, she was still alive. But we didn't. And so I guess I don't have a great contribution in my answer other than to say that I wish I had been more, I don't know if courageous is the right word, earlier in, when it mattered to, really talk to someone about how I was feeling, including some of my family, because I really do think it could have made a difference.
Yeah. What we're realizing here that we all, you all here have a lot of in process, maybe feelings, or maybe you're saying that, I never thought about it. And now that we're talking, maybe this is something that you will revisit and maybe and seek therapy if you need to, right? Talk to someone, because it's not something, it's not easy. I remember the hospital was renovated a few years ago, and we went back, my daughter and I, for a sickle cell event. And she stood and then she was looking everywhere, and she told me, she said, I wish it was the same when I was spending my days here. And I didn't realize. I said, what do you mean? She goes, there was no there was no computers, there was no, all these electronics, there was just toys, and they were like for young kids. And we spent the day here. So you see, that is the first time I heard, that was the first complaint I ever heard from one of the kids. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize, because I was telling them we are in the ER, just I will take them to the playroom, stay there, I will come and get them, let's go eat, stay there, because we are immigrants. I don't have siblings, I don't have family, it's only me. So when we go to the ER, we all go. Can you imagine? We all have to go. And so you miss out on so many things that now I look at them, I just want to give them the freedom to do whatever it is they want to do. I say, go out, enjoy life. But their use family dynamic is different also with sickle cell, right? We don't plan things ahead of time because we always scared that we have to cancel. We don't buy plane ticket to go somewhere without insurance. There are so many precautions you take. Sometimes it's good in your adult life, it helps, but sometimes also that residual trauma that you have to address so that you get rid of any habits that is preventing you from living, enjoying life, because your sibling is are, now also adult like you, and they are handling their own life. So you have to allow yourself to live.
Thank you. So
Oh,
since we're at the hour,
Cassie, you want to say something?
yeah, hold on. I'm gonna have all of you guys say, um, go around one time, because we are at the top of the hour. And so we'll start with Casey. And then you all will have at least an opportunity to say some final remarks, and then we'll close out. What I can say is this: I am so glad. It's bringing up emotions for me, actually. Um, this whole talk, I think is long overdue, and we definitely need to do it again. But Casey, final remarks or comment?
I want to jump off a little bit from what Dr. Edward was saying because I have not really been, acknowledging the emotional part. It feels like you're complaining about something when like something else is much worse. Is that dynamic? But something else interesting that I realized recently, my mom has always asked me why I am so terrified of needles. I have a severe needle phobia. At this point, I basically just have to be given some sedatives before I get a vaccine or go to the dentist. And she's like, why? Because, I grew up around them. And I think part of it is that I am not allowed to panic when there's a real emergency because we have things we have to do. So instead, I end up, there's all this anxiety about doing medical things for me, going to the doctor or getting a shot or things like that. I can't even give blood unsedated like for a blood test. So I think sometimes the emotions, and I don't know if this just happens, it might just be a weird thing that I do, but just gets displaced onto something completely or only partially related. Anyway, something to think about. Thank
It's
you for inviting me and good night.
well, no, and don't leave yet, but thank you. And no, what you said was so valuable. Mm, so valuable. And what insight that you have, Casey, that led you to even come up with that. Thank you. Final remarks. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. Just really quick. Once again, I want to thank you all for this opportunity. As it was mentioned before, we're not always asked about of our experiences. And we know it's important to speak to the warriors. We know it's important to see, my brother just commented, we know that it's important to hear from the parents as they are the caregivers and advocates of their warriors. But and not to say it in a way of, oh my gosh, what about me? But we matter too, in a sense of we contribute and we participate and we feel the emotions, and it does affect us in certain ways. I never thought about the mental ramifications either. I kind of always kept it to myself. I didn't want to add on to all the stress that my parents are already going through. I didn't want to add on to that. Not that they wouldn't have listened, because they absolutely would have. That was on me keeping to myself. So I have therapy session next week. I probably would bring it up too. So, but thank you. I love hearing from everyone else's experience. I'm the only person. I love you too, Jonathan. I'm the only person that, not the only person that in our family that has sickle cell, but from my perspective of being the oldest, I didn't have anyone, to be like, hey, what was your experience or how? So to hear everyone else's experiences in their different dynamics in their families, but to understand that we all came out basically in the same manner of protecting our siblings and loving our siblings and being empathetic and advocating for them. It's amazing, and I love it. And I'm just, if you guys do this again, I will absolutely participate, because this was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to go next? Dr. Edward.
I'm happy to go. So, I guess, last of all, just thank you for putting this panel together, inviting me to participate. Just one quick thing that didn't come up that I do think kind of speaks to the sibling experience is that many of us have sickle trait. And because the focus is on sickle cell as it ought to be, I just wanted to dovetail off this idea that sometimes we
Yeah.
don't talk as much about trait and what it means for us, and our families as much as we should. And it's considered a benign, kind of carrier trait, but under extreme physical stresses, prolonged exertion, dehydration, high altitudes, carriers can have manifestations of the disease that we don't really talk about. And so I just wanted to kind of dovetail off this idea that because sickle cell disease is so much more severe, it rightfully gets the focus. But I do think that we also have to think about the implications of trade as well, and that's kind of the researcher in me. And so, and just the last thing I wanted to mention, alongside my thanks for this marathon that you're putting on, is that advocacy for sickle cell disease, and particularly sickle cell disease research in this climate, is so incredibly important. There are many things that we don't understand well enough. The scientific community and the resources and institutions that have historically supported sickle cell disease, not to the degree that I think it deserves historically, are under tremendous strain right now. And I just think that it's incumbent upon all of us to advocate for support for additional research in sickle cell disease, because it's critical and it can really, make a very significant impact beyond just making, curative therapies more affordable. There are many more things that we could do to manage some of the adult manifestations of sickle cell disease that are within our reach. But, we really need to press in, find and apply those things clinically. And I just wanted to offer that that's not necessarily a sibling perspective, but that's the researcher coming out of me. So thank you.
No, thank you. And Daniela.
Oh, wow. It's been such an honor to be here today. And for me, my final remarks will be for us to continue telling the stories. I connected with Elle at Escape and we were just talking, and I told her, my sister has sickle cell, I'm a carrier. And she was like, wait, we have to have you on our Super Siblings panel. And I texted her a few minutes before joining. I was like, I don't know what to say. I'm nervous. And she was like, just speak from your heart. And honestly, this was needed because this is my first time even being on a panel, and it's a global World Sickle Cell Day marathon. So yeah, I'll just say let us continue to tell the stories of the mountains we've climbed, and it could be a page in someone else's survival guide. So thank you all for sharing. I learned from you today. And yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh my goodness, long overdue.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a sort of something. And also, as everyone may or may not know, I am an adult person with sickle cell disease, and I do have a sibling who's younger. And so there's just a lot. Um, there's a lot. One thing I do want to say, and then we're going to transition, and we do need to do this again. Why? Because I think it also makes a difference with not just the family dynamics and the systems, but also how the parents are reacting. And seriously, what the parents are saying and or doing. And so that's a whole nother topic, huh? And
Yes.
so we will definitely have a part two. Casey, thank you. Seriously, when I text you, you're saying, yes, thank you. Brianna, it's good to meet you. You're in California. I'm sure I will see you. Dr. Edward, I think you said you're in Georgia. You're in Georgia as well as Daniela.
Atlanta.
Nice to meet you both.
You too.
Uh, this was great, you all. And so I appreciate you. We are going to transition. The next
Yes.
is actually, I believe in
Thank
therapy.
you.
That is actually
Oh,
moderated by health. So we're going to actually just transition naturally to the I Believe in Therapy. I do hope that you all are able to stay. Their presentation is wonderful. And so we're going to transition into I Believe in Therapy. Thank you all again. And definitely we'll do this again. I
Thank
appreciate
Yes,
it.
as
you.
we transition, I wanted to
Thank
say
you.
that as we transition, the Caregiver Summit is in November. We'll definitely do a part two at the Caregiver Summit because I've been wanting it for for years. So there will be a part two at the Caregiver Summit. So mark your calendars for November, that second weekend, and we'll, stay in touch. We'll let you know when that is.